Chosen one. Look at you. Something shifted in your reality recently. That moment when everything clicked into place like a weapon being assembled in the dark. You feel it crawling under your skin right now. That electric recognition that someone finally sees what you've become. You know exactly what I'm talking about. That one decision that sent shockwaves through your entire existence. Whatever that move was, walking away from what was killing your spirit, cutting off the energy vampires, standing up to the authority figure who thought you'd never find your voice. It made you in charge. Right now, as reality bends around the gravity of your new presence, the weak ones are scrambling to understand what happened. But here's what you're about to discover. This transformation goes deeper than anyone could imagine. Let's rewind to before the awakening. Back when you were still pretending their approval mattered. Back when you were still dancing to their rhythm, speaking their language, wearing their masks. You remember that suffocating feeling, like being buried alive in other people's expectations while something ancient and dangerous stirred in your chest. They had you convinced you were fragile, convinced you needed their validation like oxygen, convinced you were lucky to get their scraps of attention and affection. They built an entire ecosystem around your perceived weakness, feeding off your energy like parasites in expensive suits. Every compromise you made fed their power while starving your soul. But something was building. Every fake smile was adding pressure to the volcano. Every time you bit your tongue, you were sharpening the blade. Every moment you chose peace over truth, you were loading the ammunition for the war that was coming. They thought your silence meant submission. They had no idea it meant preparation. The signs were there if anyone had been paying attention. The way your energy started shifting, the way their manipulation tactics started bouncing off you like bullets off titanium, the way you started asking questions that made them uncomfortable, but they were too drunk on their own power to notice the monster they were creating through their neglect and disrespect. You started seeing the patterns, the way they would love bomb you when they needed something, then ghost you when they didn't, the way they would gaslight your intuition when it called out their games, the way they would punish you for having needs while expecting you to fulfill all of theirs. The machinery of manipulation became visible, and once you could see it, you couldn't unsee it. This is where most people break, where they accept the abuse as normal, where they convince themselves that crumbs are a feast. But not you. Something in your DNA refused to accept mediocrity as destiny. Something in your bloodline remembered what it meant to be sovereign. Something in your spirit recognized that this suffering wasn't random, it was preparation. Every betrayal was teaching you discernment. Every disappointment was showing you your own standards. Every moment of disrespect was revealing your own power. You weren't being broken down, you were being forged. Like steel in the fire, every degree of heat was making you stronger, sharper, more unbreakable. The people around you had no idea they were creating their own destruction. Every time they underestimated you, they were giving you strategic advantage. Every time they dismissed your potential, they were ensuring their own shock when you unleashed it. They thought they were keeping you small. They were actually keeping you invisible until you were ready to strike. Then came that moment, that crystalline, earth-shattering moment, when something inside you said enough with such finality that it echoed through every cell in your body. It might have looked like a breakdown to them, but you know what it really was? A breakthrough. The dam burst, the volcano erupted, the sleeping giant opened its eyes. This wasn't some gradual evolution. This was an instantaneous transformation, like flipping a switch that had been building electrical charge for years. One moment you were who they expected you to be. The next moment you were who you were always meant to become. The metamorphosis was so complete, it left everyone around you in shock. You didn't just set a boundary, you became the boundary. You didn't just change your mind, you changed your entire molecular structure. You didn't just walk away, you vanished from their reality and materialized in your own. The person they thought they knew was gone, replaced by someone who operated on frequencies they couldn't even perceive. That move, whatever it was, walking away from the job that was slowly killing you, cutting off the toxic people who were feeding off your life force, standing up to the authority figure who thought you'd never find your voice, choosing yourself over everyone else's comfort, That wasn't just self-preservation, that was self-creation. You didn't just save yourself, you birthed yourself. The aftermath was biblical, the way their entire world started crumbling because they had built it on the foundation of your compliance. The way relationships that seemed solid revealed themselves to be houses of cards. The way systems that appeared powerful showed their complete dependence on your participation. Your absence didn't just leave a gap, it exposed how hollow everything actually was. They scrambled like insects when the rock gets lifted, suddenly calling, suddenly caring, suddenly promising change they should have made years ago. But it was too late. You had seen behind the curtain, you had glimpsed the wizard pulling the levers, you had tasted your own power, and their desperation only confirmed what you already knew. You had been the source all along. Some tried anger. How dare you abandon your responsibilities? How dare you prioritize yourself? How dare you act like you're better than everyone else? Their rage was just fear wearing a mask. Fear that without your energy to drain, they would have to face their own emptiness. Fear that your liberation would inspire others to seek their own. Fear that your example would expose their cowardice. Others tried guilt. Remember all we did for you. Remember how much we care about you. Remember your duty, your loyalty, your place. But their manipulation tactics felt like children's toys in the hands of the giant you had become. You could see their strings now, and puppet masters lose all power once their puppets become aware. Here comes the part that separates the awakened from the pretenders. The silence, the space between your old life and your new one. The no man's land where you're too evolved for your old connections but haven't yet magnetized your new tribe. This is where most people panic and run back to the familiar cage. But not you. You understood something that the weak never grasp. Solitude is not punishment, it's purification. It's the universe clearing out the frequency pollution, so you can hear your own signal clearly. It's removing the static so you can tune into your true station. The loneliness wasn't emptiness, it was expansion. Room being made for the empire you were about to build. In the quiet you discovered something magnificent. You liked your own company better than anyone else's. Your own thoughts were more interesting than their small talk. Your own energy was more nourishing than their conditional approval. You weren't incomplete without them. You were finally complete without their interference. This isolation was your cocoon phase, invisible to the world, but undergoing the most radical transformation of your existence. While they were gossiping about your disappearance, you were busy becoming someone they wouldn't recognize when you emerged. While they were trying to diagnose your behavior, you were busy transcending their entire understanding of what was possible. If you felt called by this message, hype this video so other chosen ones like you can be reached. Slowly, like dawn breaking over a conquered city, the full scope of what you had accomplished began to reveal itself. You hadn't just escaped their control, you had broken their entire operating system. You hadn't just changed your circumstances, you had altered the fundamental power dynamics of every relationship you would ever have. People started responding to you differently. There was something in your energy that commanded respect whether they wanted to give it or not. Your presence had become magnetic and terrifying at the same time. Magnetic to those who resonated with authentic power, terrifying to those who survived on manipulation and control. You had become a truth detector, a repellent, a walking lie detector. Fake people couldn't maintain their masks in your presence. Weak people couldn't maintain their pretenses around your strength. This wasn't ego, this was recognition. Recognition of the power that had always been there but had been suppressed, denied, bargained away for the illusion of belonging. Now it was unleashed, unfiltered, undeniable. You had stopped asking for permission to be yourself, and the world had no choice but to adjust to your frequency. Your authenticity had become a weapon, and you were learning to wield it with surgical precision. Not a weapon to hurt others, that would be beneath you now, but a weapon to cut through illusion, manipulation, and the thousand small compromises that used to bleed you dry. When you spoke truth without apology, lies withered in your presence. When you honored your boundaries without explanation, violation becomes impossible. You had become allergic to anything that felt like the old patterns. Energy vampires couldn't latch onto you anymore. Your frequency had become incompatible with their parasitic needs. People pleasers felt uncomfortable around you because you weren't playing their validation games. Controllers found themselves powerless because you were no longer controllable. This is what they had feared all along. Not that you would become cruel or vindictive. That would have been easy to handle. They feared that you would become uncontrollable, that you would remember your worth and start demanding that the world match it, that you would stop accepting scraps and start expecting feasts, that you would stop being grateful for their neglect and start being intolerant of their disrespect. Your standards had become your shield and your sword. Nothing below your frequency could penetrate your energy field. Nothing beneath your standards could access your time. Nothing less than your worth could negotiate with your attention. You had become untouchable not through hardness but through clarity. Your transformation wasn't just personal, it was cosmic. Every time you chose yourself over their comfort, you gave permission to someone else to do the same. Every time you refused to accept less than you deserved, you raised the standard for what was acceptable. Every boundary you set created a template for others to follow. People were watching. People you didn't even know were watching. Your courage was contagious. Your rebellion was infectious. Your liberation was inspiring. A quiet revolution in circles you couldn't even see. Someone witnessed how you handled disrespect and found the strength to leave their abusive relationship. Someone observed how you prioritized your well-being and finally quit the job that was killing their spirit. You had become a frequency generator, broadcasting a signal that said this is what it looks like when someone refuses to be diminished. Your very existence was proof that escape was possible, that transformation was available, that the cage was always unlocked. People just needed to see someone else walk through the door. Your former oppressors were losing power because their other victims were getting inspired by your example. Their manipulation tactics were becoming less effective because people had seen what happened when someone refused to play the game. You hadn't just freed yourself, you had shown others the map to their own liberation. Something fundamental had shifted in the way you carried yourself. There was a regality to your posture now, a sovereignty in your silence, an authority that needed no announcement because it was written in your DNA. You weren't performing power, you were embodying it. Not power over others, but power over your own existence. Every scar had become a badge of honor. Every lesson had become a piece of armor. Every moment of growth had become a jewel in your crown. The people who had tried to break you had unwittingly forged you into something unbreakable. The experiences that were meant to diminish you had actually concentrated your power. You wore your transformation like royalty because that's what you were. Sovereign of your own kingdom, ruler of your own reality, emperor of your own energy. Not because you were born to it, but because you had earned it through fire, claimed it through courage, and maintained it through uncompromising self-respect. Now they see it. The ones who dismissed you, underestimated you, took you for granted. They see the power that was always there but is now impossible to ignore. Some are drawn to it like planets to a star. Others are repelled by it, like vampires by sunlight. Both reactions tell you everything you need to know about who belongs in your orbit and who doesn't. The people who celebrate your growth understand evolution. The people who mourn your old, smaller self were never really for you. The people who encourage your expansion are your true tribe. The people who try to shrink you back down are threatened by transformation. Your liberation is their mirror, and they don't like what they see reflected back. But their opinion no longer carries the weight it once did. You've learned to distinguish between feedback and projection, between wisdom and manipulation, between love and control. You welcome input from those who have earned the right to influence your thinking, and you dismiss criticism from those who haven't done the work to understand your journey. The weak ones are trying to diagnose you now, calling you arrogant, selfish, difficult. But you know what they're really saying. They're admitting that they can't manipulate you anymore. They're confessing that their old tactics don't work on your new frequency. They're announcing their own powerlessness in the face of your authentic strength. Here we are, chosen one, full circle from where we started, but you're not the same person who began this journey of recognition. The cage is obliterated, the chains are vapor, the script has been rewritten by your own hand. And you magnificent, unstoppable force of nature, You are finally, fully, unapologetically in charge. That move, whatever it was, didn't just change your circumstances, it revealed your true nature. You weren't the victim they tried to convince you that you were. You were the weapon pretending to be broken. You weren't the one who needed fixing. You were the one who needed unleashing. You weren't the problem in every situation. You were the solution that everyone was too threatened to acknowledge. The throne fits perfectly, doesn't it? It should. It was carved from the bones of every compromise you refused to make, polished by every tear you shed in private, and crowned by every moment you chose yourself over their comfort. This is your renaissance. This is your revolution. This is your reign. Welcome to your empire, chosen one. Population you, and everyone else is either a citizen, an ally, or irrelevant. The game has changed because you changed it. The rules are different because you wrote them. The power is yours because you took it. But let's dig deeper into what that move actually created, because the surface level changes were just the beginning. You didn't just alter your personal reality. You became the architect of a completely new paradigm. Every decision you make now carries the weight of someone who has tasted their own power and found it intoxicating. Every step you take leaves an imprint that says, this is what it looks like when someone refuses to be owned. The people who used to have access to your energy are now studying you like a foreign language. They can no longer speak. They're trying to decode the frequency you're operating on. But here's the thing about authentic transformation. It's not a code to be cracked. It's a nuclear reaction that changes the fundamental structure of everything it touches. You're not just different, you're operating from a completely different dimension of possibility. Watch how they try to map your new behavior onto their old understanding of who you were. They'll say you're going through a phase, having a midlife crisis, being influenced by the wrong people. They need these explanations because the alternative, that you've simply evolved beyond their reach, is too threatening to their worldview. They'd rather believe you're broken than accept that you're breakthrough. But you know what's really happening. You're not having a breakdown or a phase or a crisis. You're having a renaissance, a rebirth, a complete reconstruction of your identity from the ground up, using only materials that can withstand the pressure of your authentic self. Everything that couldn't handle your growth got demolished. Everything that could handle it got reinforced. The energy you now emit doesn't ask for permission or seek approval. It doesn't negotiate with mediocrity or compromise with disrespect. It simply exists at a level that forces everything around it to either rise up or fall away. You've become a human tuning fork, and everything in your presence either harmonizes with your vibration or reveals itself as discordant noise. They're calling you cold now, distant, changed, unrecognizable. They're right. The person who used to absorb their toxicity and call it love is gone. The person who used to mistake their crumbs for care has been incinerated. The person who used to apologize for existing has been replaced by someone who commands space simply by occupying it. You've become what they always feared most, uncontrollable. Not chaotic or destructive, but genuinely sovereign. Someone who operates according to internal guidance rather than external validation. Someone whose sense of worth is so unshakable that their opinion of you becomes irrelevant. Someone who has learned to trust their own judgment so completely that groupthink becomes impossible. The way you wield silence now is a masterclass in power dynamics. Where you used to fill uncomfortable pauses with explanations, justifications, and apologies, you now let the silence do the work. You've learned that silence is not empty space. It's concentrated power. It's the pause before the storm. It's the held breath before the revelation. Your silence makes them nervous because it no longer carries the desperate energy of someone seeking approval. It carries the patient energy of someone who knows their worth and is watching to see if others can recognize it. It's not the silence of submission. It's the silence of evaluation. You're not waiting for them to fill the space. You're waiting to see what they'll reveal about themselves in the discomfort. When they demand explanations for your behavior, you don't provide them, not because you can't, but because you won't. You've learned the difference between someone who deserves your energy and someone who demands it. You've discovered that the people who truly understand your journey don't need explanations, and the people who need explanations will never truly understand your journey. This selective sharing of your inner world is perhaps the most powerful aspect of your transformation. You're no longer an open book for anyone to read and critique. You're a rare manuscript that only reveals its secrets to those who approach with proper reverence and genuine curiosity. Something extraordinary is happening in your orbit now. The move you made didn't just change your position, it changed your gravitational pull. You're attracting different types of people and opportunities. The desperate ones who used to cling to you have been replaced by secure ones who choose to stand beside you. The energy vampires who used to drain you have been replaced by energy generators who amplify you. The quality of your connections has transformed completely. Where you used to have surface-level relationships built on mutual neediness, you now have depth-level connections built on mutual respect. Where you used to attract people who wanted to fix you or be fixed by you, you now attract people who are already whole and are interested in creating something greater together. Your calendar looks different now. Your phone rings differently. Your invitations come from different sources. The people who want your time and attention are operating from abundance rather than scarcity. They're not trying to extract something from you. They're trying to create something with you. That move activated something in you that now functions like an immune system for your energy. You've developed an almost supernatural ability to detect inauthentic energy before it gets close enough to affect you. The manipulation tactics that used to work on you now trigger immediate rejection responses. The guilt trips that used to derail you now bounce off you like raindrops off glass. You can spot an energy vampire from across the room now. Their desperate hunger for attention and validation is visible to you like a neon sign. You can feel their neediness reaching toward you like grasping fingers, but your new frequency creates an automatic force field that keeps them at a safe distance. They can't latch onto something that operates at a wavelength. They can't reach. The people who used to walk all over you now find themselves walking around you instead. Not because you've become aggressive or hostile, but because you've become immovable. Your boundaries are no longer requests that can be negotiated. They're laws of physics that simply cannot be violated. Your presence has become a mirror that reflects people back to themselves with uncomfortable accuracy. The confident ones see their confidence reflected and amplified. The insecure ones see their insecurity magnified and exposed. The authentic ones feel recognized and welcomed. The fake ones feel seen through and rejected. This mirror effect happens automatically now. You're not trying to expose anyone or make anyone uncomfortable. You're simply being yourself so completely that it highlights the ways others are not being themselves. Your authenticity makes their masks feel heavy. Your self-respect makes their self-abandonment obvious. Your boundaries make their lack of boundaries glaring. Some people love this about being around you now. They feel permission to drop their own masks and be real. They feel inspired to raise their own standards and expect better treatment. They feel encouraged to trust their own instincts and stop seeking external validation. Your example shows them what's possible when someone commits fully to their own growth. Others hate this about being around you. They feel exposed and vulnerable. They feel judged and found wanting. They feel pressured to be better than they're willing to be. Your presence reminds them of all the compromises they've made and continue to make. It highlights the gap between who they are and who they could be. You've completely revolutionized your energy economics. Where you used to be generous to a fault, giving your time and attention to anyone who asked, you now operate according to strict principles of energetic exchange. You've learned that your energy is your most valuable resource, and you protect it like the precious commodity it is. Every interaction is now evaluated through the lens of energy return. Does this person add to your life force or drain it? Does this situation expand your possibilities or contract them? Does this opportunity align with your growth or hinder it? These aren't selfish questions, they're survival questions for someone operating at your level. You've discovered that you can actually feel the energetic cost of certain people and situations before you fully engage with them. Your body has become a sophisticated measuring instrument that can detect energy imbalances and warn you before you get caught in them. You trust these signals now in a way you never did before. The people who benefited from your old energy economics are struggling to adapt to your new policies. They're used to unlimited access to your attention. your care, your problem-solving abilities. Now they have to earn that access through reciprocity and respect. Many of them can't make the adjustment and fade away naturally. That move wasn't just about changing your present, it was about claiming your future. You've gone from being someone who reacts to circumstances to someone who creates them. From someone who accepts what's offered to someone who demands what they deserve. From someone who hopes for better to someone who builds better. Every decision you make now is made with the awareness that you're not just living your life, you're crafting your legacy. Not in some grandiose public sense, but in the quiet, powerful sense of someone who refuses to waste their potential on situations and people who can't appreciate it. You're building something now. Maybe it's a business that operates according to your values. Maybe it's a relationship that honors your full complexity. Maybe it's a lifestyle that feeds your soul instead of draining it. Whatever it is, it's being constructed with the materials of your authentic self, rather than the compromises of your former self. The foundation you're building on now is unshakable because it's built on truth rather than illusion, on self-respect rather than external validation, on genuine worth rather than artificial scarcity. Whatever you create from this foundation will stand the test of time, because it's aligned with the laws of your own nature. You've entered what can only be described as the untouchable zone, a state of being where you're so aligned with your authentic power that external circumstances lose their ability to derail you. Success doesn't intoxicate you because you're not seeking it for validation. Failure doesn't devastate you because you're not defining yourself by outcomes. This untouchable quality isn't hardness or indifference, it's freedom. Freedom from the need to control how others perceive you. Freedom from the compulsion to make everyone comfortable. Freedom from the exhausting work of maintaining an image that was never really you to begin with. People can sense this untouchable quality even when you're not trying to project it. It's in the way you move through space without apologizing for your presence. It's in the way you speak without seeking agreement or approval. It's in the way you exist without requiring external confirmation of your worth. This state of being is magnetic to some and terrifying to others. Those who recognize authentic power are drawn to it like a rare and precious thing. Those who only understand borrowed power or manipulated power find it incomprehensible and threatening. You've become something most people never achieve, a reality sculptor. Every word you speak now carries the weight of someone who has learned to bend circumstances to match their vision rather than bending their vision to match circumstances. Your expectations have become prophecies. Your standards have become laws of physics. Your boundaries have become unbreachable fortresses. The move you made wasn't just about changing one situation. It was about claiming your birthright as the primary creative force in your own existence. You stopped being a character in someone else's narrative and became the author of your own epic. The plot twists, the character development, the climactic moments, all yours to orchestrate. Your energy field has become sacred territory now, guarded by the fierce protector that awakened when you made that move. Nothing enters your space without your permission. Nothing affects your peace without your consent. Nothing diminishes your power without your deliberate choice to allow it. This guardian doesn't sleep, doesn't compromise, doesn't make exceptions for old loyalties or guilt trips. It operates according to one simple principle: does this serve your highest good or not? Everything gets filtered through this question before it reaches your conscious awareness. The toxic gets neutralized, the beneficial gets amplified, the irrelevant gets ignored. You've become energetically bulletproof, not through hardness, but through clarity. When you know exactly what you will and won't accept, the universe stops sending you tests and starts sending you confirmations. When you become unmovable in your standards, everything else moves to accommodate you. Now the following is a message meant exclusively for the chosen. If you are compromised by archonic forces, this is not meant for you. And by the spiritual authority conferred to us by the secret chiefs of the Obsidian Inner Order, we grant you license to depart. If not, steel yourself and listen intently, for you shall be redeemed even as we are redeemed. The Obsidian Inner Order is not a program. It's not a course. It's not some feel-good spiritual retreat. We don't sell answers. We remember together. We teach psychic self-defense, real energetic shielding against entities, implants, and interference. We restore manifestation as it was meant to be, raw, immediate and exact. Every week we gather in secret, not to worship but to awaken, to speak what can't be said anywhere else, to deprogram the matrix, layer by layer. You'll know if you're meant to be there. You'll feel it in your bones. The chosen meet every week on Zoom. Why aren't you with us yet? Got gnosis? Join the Obsidian Inner Order. Link in the description. That move didn't just change you, it activated something dormant in your bloodline. Generational patterns that had been running on autopilot for decades suddenly short-circuited. Toxic cycles that had been passed down like heirlooms got broken and discarded. The courage you found to transform yourself gave permission to parts of your lineage to transform as well. You've become a pattern interrupt in human form. Wherever you go, whatever you touch gets upgraded to match your frequency. Conversations become deeper, standards become higher, excuses become unacceptable, mediocrity becomes intolerable. Your presence doesn't just occupy space, it elevates it. There's a particular quality to your silence now that speaks louder than any words you could use. It's the silence of someone who has nothing to prove, because proof has become irrelevant. The silence of someone who doesn't need to defend their choices because the results speak for themselves. The silence of someone who has transcended the need for external validation. This silence isn't withdrawal, it's concentration. Like a laser beam focused into pure potency. Your words carry more weight because you use fewer of them. Your presence commands more attention because you demand less of it. Your influence spreads wider because you're no longer trying to control its direction. The people who used to trigger emotional reactions in you now encounter this impenetrable calm. Your non-reaction becomes their loudest feedback. Your indifference becomes their harshest criticism. Your peace becomes their chaos multiplied back to them. Here we stand at the completion of this recognition ceremony. Chosen one. The circle closes where it began, but you are transformed beyond recognition. That move, whatever it was, didn't just put you in charge. It revealed what was always true but had been buried under layers of conditioning, compromise, and the desperate need to belong. You were never meant to be ordinary. The discomfort you felt in small spaces wasn't anxiety, it was your greatness demanding expansion. The restlessness you experienced in mediocre situations wasn't dissatisfaction, it was your destiny calling you forward. The pain you felt from settling was your soul's way of saying this isn't your home. The cage was always unlocked. The chains were always removable. The power was always yours. That move simply revealed what every cell in your body already knew. You were never meant to be controlled, contained, or diminished. You were meant to be free, powerful, and magnificently yourself. Now you stand in your full sovereignty, no longer asking permission to exist, no longer apologizing for taking up space, no longer shrinking to make others comfortable. The throne fits perfectly because it was carved specifically for you. The crown sits naturally because it was always meant to rest on your head. The kingdom stretches as far as your vision can reach because your authentic power has no limits. Welcome home to your own majesty, chosen one. The empire was always yours, you just forgot for a while. But forgetting was part of the plan. Because now that you remember, now that you've tasted your own power, now that you've felt what it's like to be truly free, you'll never forget again. The universe is holding its breath, waiting to see what you build next. And whatever you create from this place of absolute authenticity will be unstoppable, because it will be undeniably, unapologetically you.